Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about the CRUD operations using Spring Boot. So here we are going to use the MySQL database where we are going to create the department object. So let's go to the MySQL workbench. Here I have created a department table. Inside your department table we have the four columns. So one is the department ID, department name, department address and then department code. So here we are going to perform the CRUD operations, means create, update, delete and select operations on this table by using the Spring Boot application. And then along with these operations, I'm going to explain how to validate the request body object as per the REST controller. And then along with that, from the response object, so how to handle the global level exceptions. So be careful who are going to attend to the interviews. These concepts are more useful as part of the web application developers. So let's start one by one step from our coding perspective. So before going that, I'm going to start the start.spring.io, where I'm going to create the Spring Boot application with the corresponding dependencies. So first I'm going to start Java with for the Maven version. For the build version, I'm going to use the Maven, and then I'm going to use the CRUD operations here, the artifact. So here the Java version we can keep 17, no problem. And then we can add the dependencies. So as it is the web application, I'm going to keep the web dependency, Spring Starter Web. And then I'm going to use the JPA as we are communicating with the DB operations. So we have to use the data JPA. And then, so basically if you want to connect to the any of the database, the corresponding driver needs to be used. So if you want to connect to the Oracle database, we need to use the OJDBC driver. And as we are using the MySQL database, we need to use the MySQL connector. For that, let me go to the MySQL driver. So these are the three dependencies I am going to use for to connect a backend application, for to connect a backend database, and then to make a RESTful calls by using the Spring Web. So let's click on the generate button. So it is going to generate the artifact or a .zip file, which is the Spring Boot source code where we are going to use to perform our operations. Go to the downloads. So I'm going to move this content to my current working directory. Go to the D drive. I'm going to keep the Java programs under this. So we have a zip file, and then we need to extract this one. Once we extract this one in the same location, I'm going to extract all the source files. Yeah, it's been extracted. And then the next step is we are going to open the IntelliJ. So let me click on open here our CRUD operations. This is the project. And let me go inside of the Maven and click on here, load here. Okay. See here in our project. So we have the Spring Boot Starter Web, which is basically useful to prepare a web application. From the Spring Boot perspective, this dependency would be useful. And then we have a Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, which is completely going to be useful for the to make any operation with the backend database. Then we are going to use this Spring Starter Data JPA. And then this is a database specific driver dependency. Since we are using a MySQL, we have to go for the MySQL connector J. And then later the last dependency is the test. So if you want to perform any of the test cases for your project, means we have to use the Spring Boot starter test. So let me go to the Maven section and go inside profiles, life cycles, sorry, and then clean and then install. Let me start this one. Let's see, I'm seeing few errors in the console. Let me go and understand what is there. So I could see failure to instantiate data source. So why? Because we have included the JPA database and we haven't defined the database configuration details as part of the application properties. Let me add both it. SRC main resources, and this is the application properties. Let me copy those properties whichever been required. So first one is ddl command hibernate.ddl.auto.none. If I kept none means whenever we stop the server, whatever the entity classes if you have been created, which will not impact on our database. If you are keeping create means whenever the entity class has been part of your application and starting the server means the corresponding entity classes tables will be created at the database set. Since we already have the table in our database, we don't need to perform those operations to create the entities in our database. Entities to convert those entities as the tables in our database. We don't need such operations, so that I kept as none. And the next one is the driver URL. So this is like the current MySQL is running at my local with the port of 3306, and the database name is the testing, and my username is the root and password also in the root. So now let me again build the maven. Perfect. Now the build has been success. So before starting, first I will start with the domain object because we are already ready with the MySQL database with the table department on the corresponding fields. So similar, the blueprint we need to create at our Java sites, that is the domain object. Let me go create the class. The first the package name is domain. Inside the domain, I'm going to create the class as department. Since we have the department table, same name I'm going to use here. To map this entity class with the table in the database, we need to use the entity annotation, and the name is like department. So this name has to be same as that the table in the database. And we have totally 4 fields: department ID, department name, department address, and then department code. Keep all the fields as part of this class. Private integer department ID and private string department name, private string department address, private string department code, the final one. So these are the fields as part of this table. But to make a mapping, these the Java class fields with the table fields, we need to use the @ column, which is the field is mapping to which is the column. So here we are going to keep the department specific ID of that. This is the table column name, which is going to be useful and which is going to map to the Java class. This is the relation we are going to use the @column name equal to department address, and then final one is we are going to use department code. So I left the department ID. Why? Because since it is a primary key of this table, so here I'm going to use the @ID, and then I'm going to use generated column. So here I'm going to use the pattern. So here we can mention the strategy. So that strategy can be generation type. So we can use the identity or auto. So I'm going to go for the identity. So it will generate the, so normally these generation types are different types will be there. One is identity. Identity means it comes in a sequence manner. And the other one is auto. It specifically supports by the MySQL database. We can also use that one. And the third one is sequence. Sequence is nothing but a, we have to create a separate sequence in our database. By calling that sequence, we usually increment the specific value from our sequence from the database. And the fourth one is UUID. This is a random generated lengthy identity. This also we can use, but specifically I'm going for the identity, which is going to be sequentially generate the primary key values. And then I'm going to use the Lombok annotations. Let me go here at the rate data. See here, add Lombok into the class path. So it is running background. Yeah, so it's been added at the red data. Okay, so let me add the repository also. Java class repository. Inside the repository, I'm going to use the interface. We don't have interface. Okay, let me go for the department repository. So this I can make as interface, and then I'm going to extend the JPA repository, and our class name is department, and then the ID is the type of the primary key is integer. This we have kept, and then this class I'm going to mark as repository. So since we are using the Spring Data JPA, so this is the future we are going to create the one interface and then extend with the JPA repository, and we have a specific predefined methods which we are going to use as part of this, like save, find by ID, get by ID. These are the specific methods we can also use using the list CRUD operations. Save all, find all by ID. And if you go to the CRUD repositories, we have the save all, find by ID. These entire methods we can use as part of our applications without having a actual logic. Why? Because the entire logic already provided by these classes. Okay. So, and then let me create the service Java class department service. This I am going to mark as a great service. So let me create a separate uh, packages because it is easy to understand later. Repository, for the repository, I'm going to move this repository class over there. And then let me go here. Here it will be CRUD operations repository and then department repository. The package is correct. And then let me create another package like service. Let me move this service inside of this service. Oh, it is getting a problem. Package com.example.crud operations.repository clashes with class of same name. Let me refresh once. Okay, let me delete and recreate again this one. Let me create department repository. So here I'm going to select this interface. So here this is the class name which is causing the issue. Let me delete this one. Yeah, now it is fine. So here I'm going to do the extends operation JPA repository, and then we have the entity class name is department, and then the primary class of our entity class is department ID. That is the type of integer. And then let me create a controller also. Right click Java class. Before creating the class, let me create a package controller. Inside the controller, I'm going to create a Java class is name nothing but department controller. So this is I'm going to enter with REST controller, and then let's start with repository. For example, if I want to find by department ID, public. So if you want to get the department object by the department ID, so for that let me write public department find by department ID. So here we need to pass the department ID. Teacher. Okay. So and then with this method, we can get the department by the department ID value. So let's go to the department service. So here I have written two methods. One is to get the department by the finding by department ID, and second method I have written for saving object. So if you see the save object from the department repository class, there is no specific save object here. It is part of the JPA repository class. Let me go inside of it. So if you see here list of CRUD operations, and these are the several methods which is part of the repository which we have implemented in the JPA repository. This is the save method which we are going to use in our service class, department repository dot save. So let me write the controller for these two methods to get the department by the ID, and second method is for to save the department object inside our database. Let me write the controller class having these two methods, two entries. So keep the @rest controller. So at the global level, I'm going to keep the global means the controller level. I'm going to keep the one path variable. That is, let me keep as a department. And then for getting the department by the ID, for that I'm going to write here I'm keeping the response entity and find or get department. Just keeping that get department method. And then I'm going to pass here the department ID which is going to receive from input. So here, as part of it, we need to go for @request mapping. So since department you are passing, and also we need to get the ID. So that usually I'm preferring to get from as a path parameter. And so here I'm going to use the produces method, means the output of this method has to be JSON type. So for that I'm going to use the media type dot application JSON value. Okay, let me remove these two unwanted imports. So go inside of it, and then we need to auto wire department service. Keep as auto wired. Let me take department service dot get department by ID. This I am going to pass. And to map the path variable with the method parameter, we need to use the @path variable annotations. So @path variable annotation, and then in the parentheses we need to pass the ID. Means this ID and this ID both has to be the same. Then only this value will be mapped to the department ID variable value. So here we are getting the department object. Department equal to, let me import this class. So directly we can return the department object here, rather than I would prefer to use the response entity always. So we can use the response entity, and then the status I am going to use http status dot ok, and then I'm going to provide the body as department object. This I would keep as written. So this method is going to be written the response entity object which having the department object, and then having a status as OK. And the next method is we are going to use for to create a department object inside a table. So for that, let me create another method response entity and pass as department. Here also we can use the type parameters, so that the type of the return type will comes from the method is the department object. So here also going to keep create department. So for to create the department, we usually need to get the department object from the request body. So that for that we have to create the department object as a request parameter, and then we have to make this one as a @request body. So once it comes, we need to call the department service dot save department. So once it comes, I am going to pass this department object for it. So here also we are getting the department object. I'm just keeping the result here and binding this department object inside the response entity. So since it is, we are going to creating the object, I'm just keeping this HTTP status as created, and then body I'm keeping as result. I'm returning this one. So I also have to keep your request mapping for this one, since these are two independent URLs. So here I'm going to keep as method as. Here also we can if you are not mentioning the method means by default it will take the get type request method dot get. Here also I'm going to write request method dot post. So here I'm going to give the consumes as media type dot application JSON value, and also we have to use the produces. So here the meaning of consumes is nothing but whatever the request body comes as part of this endpoint. Here we are getting the department. The department object comes from the REST API calls as a JSON format. Then the JSON format which comes from the request body will be binded to this department object. That refers the consumes object. And the second one is produces parameter. It's just like whatever the response comes from this endpoint. Here we are sending from the response entity, we are sending the department. Result is nothing but department object. So since we are sending the department object, which has to be written as a JSON format, output client means whichever going to use this endpoint, they have to get the data as part of application JSON format. So then let me see the service again. Service we have sent department repository and controller we have kept this one. Okay, everything is perfect. Let me start the main application, CRUD operations. Let me rename it. It has big spelling mistake. Refactor rename CRUD operations applications. Yeah. So let me run this one. Enable annotation processing. Doing is passing the our Java application, and then it is going to start the server. See here there is an exception. The table contains physical column name department ID referred by the multiple logical column names department ID and department ID. Let's go inside of the department table. So we have kept as @ID, and this name we have to keep as column. The name has to be department ID. Let me start again. So column department ID is duplicated in mapping entity. Okay, multiple properties to the same column, column is settable. Okay, I got it. This has to be department name. Let me restart again the server name. So the server has been started, and first let me permit the local host. Since the port of this application is 8080, I am keeping 8080, and at the controller level we kept as the main path is the department. Let me keep as department, and then we have to pass the ID. Let me first ID as 1, see how it comes. It's 404. See here what is the problem. So this is the REST controller. Okay, So since it is the REST controller, we cannot keep the direct mapping over there. Here also we can keep the request mapping, and then we have to send a path variable here, path, and we have to send the department. This has to be the path, and then there is no path has space for request mapping since the method type is the post. Let me restart the application and see. See here, our Tomcat has been started with 8080 port. Let me go to the postman again and hit. See, it comes with 200 success, but there is no record returns from the backend. Because if you go to the DB and run the select query, see here the empty record, there is no record as part of the table. So in this case, what we have to do? So I'm going to call the create department from the same, from the postman. I'm going to remove this one, making as post. And I need to pass the JSON object as part of the request. So I need to select a body and then we need to select a JSON. So here we need to pass the JSON content. Our first value is department ID. So for while saving, we don't need to pass the department ID since it is a primary key and the generated value is auto. We have converted the entity level. So I am directly sending the department name. So here I'm going to keep science and technologies. Next one is department address. So I'm just keeping as Bangalore. And the next one is department, the code. I'm just keeping the science. So the postman and the department object we are passing as part of the request. And then here I'm going to pass this one as part of here. I'm sending this one. So since it is inserted with department ID as 1 and the corresponding values what we are given as part of the request, those have been there. So now let's go to the database and verify whether the request has been stored or not. See here, the post record has been stored inside the database. And then one more thing I just want to refer. Okay, so for example, if I want to store any of the data element here, for example, I am passing as a null, which is not accepted. Department code should not be null, but since we are passing as part of the request and sending the request, it is going to store in the database as a null value. And if you see the database here, so it comes with the department code as null, the second record, which we are not going to allow from our request body. So what we have to do in this case, go to the department object. Normally, directly the entity classes, we should not refresh the controller side. We have to create the corresponding database. Due to time consumption, I'm directly using the entity class. This is the noted one. We have to remember. And then here, so I'm making this one as not empty. So these things are not being coming. Let me go to here. Spring Boot validation dependency. Let me take from here, from the Maven. Let me take the latest one. Go to the Maven. Copy this one. Pom.xml. Add the dependency here. We don't need to mention the version because the Spring Boot, whatever the Spring Boot we have included, it has a default version. It will directly apply the same our Spring Boot starter validation also. Let me right click on it. Maven reload project. Undo Maven clean. Do Maven install. Let me remove it first. Again do install. Yeah, it has been included. Let me include not empty. So this also I am going to keep not empty. So address and also along with department, I am going to keep as not empty. So let me start the server again. So these annotations are the predefined annotations which comes from Jakarta or JavaX. So currently I have taken from Jakarta. So the server has been started. These Jakarta annotations are very useful while developing any of the RESTful services and validating the corresponding request body objects. And if there are no specific validations which are not part of Jakarta means, we can write our own custom annotations, which I can discuss in the further videos later. So currently I'm using a predefined annotation which are part of Jakarta, not empty, not null, at the rate mean, at the rate max. These are the different types of annotation as part of Jakarta we can use. So and now let's send this one. See here, while we sending, we are getting the internal server error. So obviously it has to be the 400. Let me see what happened. So see here, department should not be the null, not empty message we are getting. Jakarta validations. So this is constraint validation exception. But the thing is, since we haven't specified at the rate valid, uh, it should not be the 500. Why? Because any of the input related exceptions are being coming means it has to be the 400 related error. Let me go to the controller first and keep as at the rate valid. This is also Jakarta specific. And stop and restart the server. Why? Because for every change we are going to restart the server. To avoid this problem, we can also include the dev tools dependency as part of the Spring Boot. So whenever we are making the change into our applications, so it will automatically restart the server without interference of ours. That could be useful. So since we haven't used the DevTools, Spring Boot DevTools dependency in our Maven, so I am manually starting the server. So now send the request here. See now it comes with 400 bad request, and see here the slash department, but we are unable to see what is the exact problem from the response object. So if you go to the logs and see here, come to the right. So inside the department object, we have the department code. So department code is rejecting and which has the not empty constraint. See here must not be empty, the department code value. So, so once we comes to the logs or console of our IntelliJ, then only we could be able to find what is the exact error. But if you want to send to the same error message as part of the response, then the people who are using this REST service, they can able to understand what is the exact problem happening. Since we have the three fields and sending the null, that could be fine. They can able to find this is coming as null. But if you go to the real-time application, there would be 100 of fields that is impossible to find which is optional and which is the mandatory fields as part of the request. So if I pass the valid value in this case, department code, if I pass the tech, see here, it comes with 200 response and it has been inserted as part of the DB. And let me refresh again. It comes with the top record with tech. So, so to send a valid response with the specific error message at the front end side, what we have to do, I'm going to create a exception handler. So let me create a package global controller. So I am going to create a class as global controller advice. So this class I am going to make it as controller advice, and I am going to create a method to handle that 400 error. So for that I am going to use response entity. So what is the error it is coming is method argument not valid exception. Okay, handling method argument not valid exception. So this class name we have to keep as exception handler on top of this method at the rate exception handler, and the default one is the value. We can use the value equal to method x dot class. Let me import this class, and we can also take this same exception here. If you want to take the HTTP servlet request, we can use, but currently I'm not using, and it is not going to be useful for me. Get binding result. So which is going to return binding result object. Bind result. So let me take another object here. So I am going to take a package, error package. Inside the error, I am going to create the error class. So here I am going to mention private string the code, private string the message. These two fields are enough for me. We want to add, we can also add few more things. And I'm going to add the lombard annotation at the rate data. So at the rate data means it comes with few of the annotations, like it comes with getter, setter, and also it comes with toString. So this is a very basic useful of the lombard annotation, which is used across different projects. And we need to iterate this binding result. Binding result. Yeah, here let me take which are the parts. Get all errors, and then we are going to stream each error. I am going to take each error dot. Is there any specific? Is the get error? Let me verify the method what I am using. Get all errors, get field errors. This is the one, correct. So I am going to keep field error. There are specific methods as part of this method. Let me check, is there any specific? Let global errors, get field error, field error count, field, get field value. So is this the binding results or get binding result? This is correct. And from the binding result we have only the get field error. If I get the field error, let me take get field. Error dot get message. First I need to take the string dot format. So here I will take a few parameters like binding result dot, which is the field, and get code is not required, reject value. Let me see what it comes, and let me give percentage. I'm just keeping as is. Let me close another bracket. What happened? Expected 0 arguments but found 1. Set message. So this is not, wow, what the error object we are referring. This is from Java lang. So let me rename this one. Refactor rename error message. So I am also preparing to use the same error message, error dot set message, and I am going to create the response entity dot status. Status I will take from x dot get status code, and then body I am going to keep the error body. Let me return this. Let me keep a debug over here. Just want to see how the values are becoming. Sending. I'm going to just keep as now this one currently. This, yeah, the server has been started now. Let me hit this one. It comes here. If I see the binding results, the errors is the array. Evaluate expressions and do evaluate. What is the result it comes? Field is the this one. Is there any rejected value? It doesn't have. And then default message we need to keep. Must not be empty. Not the default message. That is the correct one. And one more thing I want to see here. Binding result dot get field errors. There are multiple errors we can see from here. If you see the binding result, this is the result that comes from it. It also has the field. Okay, let me do one thing. Binding result got get field errors for each. Let me have a field error go inside of it. Field error dot get field. Okay, this could be useful for me. Let me take, because this is only for one error message I am going to take, but for all the error messages which are coming from the binding result, I need to map like this way inside of it. And at the top I'm going to take list of error message. Let me remove the string that comes as must not empty, means the field and department code must not empty. That should be fine. Error messages dot add. So I'm going to add this error. So and the final message I'm going to keep here. This is awesome now. So let me restart the server now. See how it comes. Yeah. Let me consent. See here, department code must not be null. Currently, the code is coming as null. Let me keep, since I haven't assigned any of the code here, let me add the code also. Code, I'm just keeping the bad request. And then restart the server again. Yeah, the server has been started, and let's hit again. See here, department code must not be empty. And if I keep address also being empty, See how it comes. Why? Because I kept not empty annotation for these three fields. Whenever one of the field comes also, it has to compare error. If two fields been there, what will be the error result? See here, the two fields also been coming as department address must not be empty, and it also coming as department address must not be empty. We have to see where it causing the issue. Why? Because for the two errors, it is coming the same value, same field name. The field error. Okay, this is causing the issue. Instead of binding result or get field error, we have to keep field error. Let me restart again. Perfect. Let me go and send. See here, the department code is empty and also department address must not be empty. These are the two error messages we are sending at the front end side. And if even if you give department name is empty, it comes with department name also be must not be empty. Even if you pass empty course also, it will guess the error, not empty annotation is. Department name must not be empty. So let's I'm taking physics department name, address I'm keeping as Bangalore. Now with the values I'm going to hit this one PHY I'm just keeping, and see here once I send it has been inserted as part of our DB for physics Bangalore PHY. Let me go to the DB and hit again. See here the fourth record which we have inserted recently. So now we have completed with the get operations, post operation. Let's start with update operation and then delete operation. Update means which of the record, existing record, we are going to change the value. For that, we have to do the update operations. So go to the department controller, and let me use public. So first go to the service once for me. So in this case, what I do, public department save update department. So this also I'm going to use the same method, get department ID. Here by department dot get department ID, I'm going to get the department object. So rather than getting the department ID, okay, 1 minute. Directly I can save department. I can use the save department repository. So this save method can be useful for both saving a recent object or saving a new object, or we can use the to change the existing object as part of the means to change the existing record as part of the table. This can be useful for the two ways. So I'm going to use only thing for the update. So for the save, we are not being sending the department ID, but the update method we need to send the department ID. Based upon that, it will find which is the record it has to going to update. For example, if we are passing department ID as 3 means this record is going to be updated. That is the main intention of this method. And then once it is completed, we have to get the result of it. Department result. Return result. And then let's go to the controller class now. So let me keep public response entity. I'm going to keep as department update department. So here also I'm keeping at the rate request body department. Here also I'm keeping at the rate valid annotation. Department result equal to department service dot update department. So we need to pass that object, and then we need to return response entity dot status http status dot. So since we are updating, I can keep as okay, that one issue, and then body we can mention as result. Here also I need to mention the mapping. Since the global level is department, here I'm going to continue with the same department, only the method type I'm going to change. So method equal to request method dot put operation I'm going to use. So here also same consumes is equal to media type dot application JSON value, produces equal to media type dot application JSON value. These are the parameters I'm going to use. So let me restore the server again and go to the postman, change the another new request I'm going to take, making as a put call. Let me copy the request object from here and go to the body, select the raw content, and then we need to select the JSON. So here I'm going to pass department ID. So which is the record I need to change as part of the database. I'm going to change the second record. So I'm passing as department ID is 2, and this I'm going to keep as we have the physics sense. I'm just going to keep the max Bangalore M8H. Let me send a request. See, we got the response with department ID. I changed to max Bangalore or math, and go to the database, refresh once, or run the query once. We see here the second record has been, the department has been changed to math, and the department code also been M8H math. So this is how the update operation if you are performing on the database, and the last operation is the delete operation. Let me write it. So for to delete, let me go to the service first. So for this, so for to delete the department row from the database, we only need the ID of that specific row. So we don't need to require the entire object. So that let me take delete department. So here I am going to take integer department ID. So here department repository dot delete operation we have. So in this case, what I have to do? So I will use the top method get department ID by passing the department ID here, and I will get the department object. Once I get the department object, I will pass to this method. You see here the delete method return type is void. Since it is void, whatever the department we are passing to this delete method, same I am going to return from this method. And let me go to the department controller. Here I am going to write another method public response entity. Response entity. Here department is the object. Delete department, and here we need to take, let me take here the request mapping annotation. Instead of it, I'm going to take the path variable because I need to receive the ID of the path variable. So for that I'm going to keep the ID, and then consumes, there is I don't want to keep the consumes because there is no request body for this method, but I will keep the produces. Because from this method I'm going to return the object which is the record has been deleted from the table. So I will keep as media type dot application JSON value, and then department service dot delete department. So here let me take integer department ID, and this has to be come from the path variable, and this is the ID, the path variable values. Here I'm going to pass the department ID. Once it is deleted, the deleted object we are going to return to the front end. So here, so department, deleted department or department. Okay. So I'm just going to give the result. Return response entity dot status http status dot OK, and then I'm going to keep the body as result. See here inside the delete department, we are just calling a delete method, which is also not being part of our depository department repository, which is part of JPA repository. If you see here, we have the delete method, delete in batch. If you go inside a few more, this is finding. Let me come to the one step back. We have the list. This is on pagination. We have the getting the values, these things. And if you go to the list CRUD operations, we have the CRUD repository. Here we have the delete method. This method we are going to use there. So let me stop and start the one post again, and let me create a different for delete. Let me take it as delete. Copy the same one from the get. So from the DB, which is the object I'm looking to delete. For example, if I want to delete the fourth position one, let me refresh. The fourth position one is the physics Bangalore PHY, and keeping the fourth as this one. Let me run this one, send. So it comes with fourth record being deleted. It comes with this 200 OK success. The record with is physics Bangalore PHY. Let me refresh again. The physics record has been deleted from the database. That's it, guys. These all are the CRUD operations which we have used as part of our application. So please let me know if you have any doubts or comments. Please mention below the video under the comment section. And thanks for watching the video, guys. Thank you.